Noel O'Callaghan on the line again. Hi, Noel.
Yes, good morning. How are you?
Not too bad, Noel. Thanks. We got you back there. Noel, as Aoife was saying there, so many people are leaving the Defence Forces because of the poor pay, because of the poor conditions. And I think from speaking to members off the record, from speaking to PD Fora, from speaking to the Wives and Partners, that's the WPDF, isn't it? It's a lack of respect as much as anything else, isn't it?
Absolutely. There's absolutely no respect or loyalty from government to the Defence Forces. For years they've been giving it loads of political flattery, for want of a better word. But in that period, I mean, there has been no political oversight whatsoever to the treatment of the Defence Forces. And the reality is now that last year, the average leaving the Defence Forces was 53 per month. Now, that does not include officers. This year, that has increased dramatically. And at the moment, we're looking at the potential of having 1,000 members gone by the end of this year. No other job could sustain that.
Absolutely. Like, looking at that, Noel, I mean, it's a far cry from where it was when you joined.
Absolutely. I joined in 1975. And you know, like everyone else, we didn't join to make a fortune. We knew that wasn't an option. But we definitely didn't join to end up on family income supplement or to be treated with the level of disrespect that they've been treated with at the moment. But just to get into context, we had over 14,500 approximately when I joined. Now, when the border broke in 69 and all that period, although we weren't ready, although we weren't well equipped, we were able to deploy very quickly to seal the border because we had the numbers and we had the barracks there. We don't have that now. And I mean, at the moment we're supposed to have 9,500. But in reality, we're way down under 9,000. But when you go to more reality and you look at the people that are overseas, we have 500 in induction training at any one time. That doesn't include instructors, 100 on leave of absence, and all the other figures that take from it. Realistically speaking, we're probably down under 8,000 people.
So, Noel, when you're looking at it, like you mentioned the border, and to somebody like me who was born quite a bit after that, like that's ancient history. But when we're talking now about Brexit and about the border and about all of these unknowns that we have, would it be your view that the Defence Forces is not at all prepared if they need to be deployed like that again?
Absolutely not. In actual fact, not only the Defence Forces are not prepared, the country's not prepared. Our Garda Síochána are the front line of security for the country, and rightly so. But the reality, their expertise and direction is obviously is criminality. Yeah, and they do an excellent job, and that's along with all the rest of the stuff like traffic, keeping the roads safe. So if they have to take huge numbers to fill the gaps of the Defence Forces to seal the border, then you're taking away from the local security on Garda Síochána.
Absolutely.
So the Defence Forces, when we come back to the Defence Forces, what we have is Finner Camp on one side. We have what they call Dundalk on the right, and the only barracks in the middle is Athlone. Yeah. So even to try and logistically to try and keep that moving. And then we're on to into the carbon footprint. Next year we're going to, they're looking at throwing on carbon charges on people. Yes, the Defence Forces are going to be driving 24/7 to try and seal the border if it happens. Yeah. The last time there was an outbreak of foot and mouth disease, for instance, it was the Army sealed the border. But even with that, there was a slight outbreak, and that cost 2% of GDP. Just in a small time frame until the Army sealed the border. But I mean, it's important to state that as well, that it's all the other areas of expertise. For instance, we've no cyber security now. Every one of them are gone under discharge. So with every one of them are gone. We actually, they are leasing out our security to a private firm at €24,000 a month.
cyber security.
Yes. If you look at the deep sea divers, we should have in excess of 20. I think it's 27. We have 6 left, and that's just kind of to give you an idea. The Ranger Wing, who are deploying to Mali very shortly now in a cynical move to gain a UN seat, are owed €20,000 each, and yet they're deploying them to Mali. You know. The list goes on. I mean, I could talk to you all day about it, but the lady before you there and the people listening in here, particularly those who are serving or retired, they know the problems. And unfortunately, this can only be addressed by the political system, by government.
And do you think, Noel, that the fact that the Minister for Defence is still the Taoiseach, who doesn't appear to be that inclined to be involved in it, he's sort of letting all the blame rest at the feet of Paul Keogh, who, after all, is only a junior minister without his own budget line, without really much saying anything? He doesn't have a seat in cabinet.
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, he can allow Minister Keogh to take all the hits he wants. The reality is, the man that's responsible, the man that's accountable for defence is Leo Varadkar TD, and unfortunately, on his watch, he's allowing the civil servants to continuously downgrade the defence forces on a daily basis. I mean, just to the extent where our press office have lost their autonomy. So if you were to put in a question to the Department of Defence on anything, it could be anything, that goes into the Minister for Defence office, where the civil servant, his PR, will answer the question, and then it'll come back out then perceived to be coming from the Department of Defence, or from the Defence Forces, which is the military, but in actual fact it's been written by the civil servants. And the problem is, the civil servants are the problem. They're the ones that has orchestrated the crisis that we're in now.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I suppose for a start off, they would be getting bonuses every year for money saved. In actual fact, it's not money saved. What it was keeping the numbers low, so that there is continuously money perceived to be handed back. But in actual fact, what they were doing was they were buying some equipment, so they were getting all the laurels that they do this. But they have created a crisis. And they've been rewarded for it. And I'll give you an idea of where the kind of mentality that's in it at the moment. At the Naval Service, we held our last parade in Cork to highlight the problems of the Naval Service. The Naval Service are actually on their knees. I think they've 2 ships at sea at any one time now, of 9. They have had to literally berth ships, put them to rest, because they don't have the manpower to man them. And full compliments to the flag officer for doing that, for having the moral courage to do that. But in the meantime, while all this is going on, we're purchasing a 200 million multi-purpose ship that we don't have a crew for.
And who are we buying it from, Noel?
It's already in the system. It's already been ordered. They're buying it for them, and it's coming. It's imminent, and really, I suppose it's for PESCO, and that's and the reality is, but in order to man it, we're going to have to take naval service members from other ships. So therefore, to get our ship, this PESCO ship, onto the sea, where the priorities will be different, we will end up with less command and control of our waters in terms of fishery and drug smuggling. So these are real issues, and I understand your listeners listening in here today probably think I'm a bit alarmist or a bit sensationalist in order to get our message across. That's not true. It's actually fact.
Well, no, I think the biggest thing as I listen to you is that, I suppose since the Troubles died down, people will have said a lot. Like, I've heard people say, why do we even have an army? We don't need one. We should be like Switzerland. But in the current situation, with Brexit approaching, with a lot of tensions internationally, it's certainly not a good time for us to have no cybercrime people, given the level of hacking that's coming from particular countries. And with nobody to guard the borders, that just strikes me as an absolute absolute disaster waiting to happen. When you talk about the ships being understaffed, when you talk about not having enough people physically to drive the length of the border, like, it just sounds like this is the worst possible time for us to be in this crisis. Noel, I think we'll come back to you about this again, because the campaign is ongoing with the Sun, and I'm sure there is more in it. Thank you for that. Noel O'Callaghan, retired Sergeant Major. He puts it very well about the situation facing the Defence Forces in general. We've spoken an awful lot about individual members and the struggles that they're having. Like, for example, yesterday it was in the Sun, and I know we've had people on about this, soldiers whose wives were telling them to leave the forces because they couldn't afford anything more than cornflakes for their kids. People on family income supplement and really, really struggling to make ends meet. And one of the things that somebody raised with us before was, of course, that they don't have a home in the barracks anymore, in most of the barracks, and I think Hall Bolin is included in this. So if you're a member from Cavan and you're posted in Hall Bolin, then you have to pay rent in Cove or Ringaskiddy or wherever, as well as your family home at home, and there's no extra allowance, I don't think, for that. It just sounds like an absolute mess. If there's anything you want to say about that, 1850 715 996.